Despite the complex and often overwhelming magnitude of spiritual and physical poverties, we know there is a solution. The answer is Jesus, and that is why there is hope. In the early 1990s, Mary Kamau, a recent college graduate active in her faith, visited Mathare Valley, one of the oldest slums in Nairobi, Kenya. What she saw transformed her life forever. Mary had never seen such extreme poverty. She couldn't understand how people could live in such unhealthy and dangerous conditions. But what shocked her even more was that it appeared that no one was stepping in to help. In that moment, the Holy Spirit began his work, lighting a fire in Mary's heart and calling her to God's will. Mary, along with her husband Wallace, quickly realized that while the people of Mathare Valley were hungry for the word of Christ, they also needed a way to meet their most basic needs. The two were joined by a board of directors and the local community to begin building what would later be known as Missions of Hope International, opening their first Christian school for 50 kindergarten students in the year 2000. Over the years, God has blessed the ministry with rapid growth. Through partnerships with churches and supporters worldwide, Missions of Hope International, or MOHI, has grown from an individual calling to a global ministry, serving over 20,000 children and their families in over 25 communities, changing the landscape of opportunity in poverty-stricken areas and transforming lives through the hope of Christ. Today, as a leader in holistic ministry, MOHI provides a wide variety of integrated programs that seek to educate, empower, restore, and redeem whole communities for Christ, creating hope not only for today, but for eternity.
Well, friends, will you welcome one of my favorite people, one of the finest leaders I know, Mary Kamau? Well, Mary, I've been fortunate to see some parts of Kenya other than Nairobi, other than the slums. It's a beautiful country. There's so many good things about that country. But you and Wallace have chosen to invest your lives in these places where people are destitute, where there's a lot of desperation. Can you just give us an idea of the scope, the magnitude of that challenge?
Yes. In Nairobi, Kenya, we have about 6 million people living in the city, and over 70% of those people live in the slums. When I talk of the slums, it's a community like Mathare Valley slums, just one of them, the oldest slum, which has about 800,000 people living in an area that is only half a mile wide, 3 miles long. And so you can imagine the people are kind of packed in there. You'll find families of 6 to 8 children living in a shanty that is only 8 by 10 feet. And you find that they have no running water, no electricity, sewers run everywhere. And most of these families, children, they don't have an opportunity for education. They don't have opportunities to have proper food. And so those are the ones that are living in the slums. But then also in Kenya, among the rural communities, there are some communities where it is so desperate. They have never had any opportunities for their children to get any form of education or health care or anything that can really help them be able to live the kind of life that Jesus would want them to live. They have never heard about Jesus, and so those are the people that we are called to minister to.
So there's extensive and deep poverty, millions of people in the city. When I first visited you in 2007 with several of my pastor friends, you'd established a school in Bondeni, which is part of the Mathare Valley, there in the slums. And that school was reaching a little less than 300 people. I think you had just started a school in the Kosovo section of the Mathare Valley, maybe 80 students there. Can you give us an idea of how that work has grown and how your reach has grown over the years?
Yes, so Pastor Eddie and his friends came in March of 2007, and that time we had only a few children, but then we had so many children that we had put on a waiting list hoping that one day, someday, God will provide resources and we can be able to educate these children. And so after their visit, Eddie actually told us, we described different villages, and he was like, we want to partner in Bodeni. And Bodeni was the worst slum at that point, and we started partnering there. And over the years, from 07 March, at that point, having like 360 kids total, September of the same year, the number shot to 938. January of 2008, the number increased to 2,140, and the numbers have continued to increase because of our partners and pastors like Eddie just bringing many people to support the kids. And so as of today, we have over 22,500 children in 30 different locations throughout the country.
Over 22,030 locations, and if you include their family members, you said 6 to 8 people live in each of these little shanties in the slums. So the impact on people is 6 digits and beyond. And so it really is an amazing reach. And, as a leader in an organization, I just think about the scale that it requires to reproduce leaders and equip people. And the leadership that requires. I'm just so grateful that you and Wallace and your team of leaders have decided to spend your lives in this work, and that we've been able to come alongside and partner with you. Westside has focused our investments primarily in the Bandeni region of the slums. And then a few years ago, you told us about a Muslim community called Morikani. It took a short plane ride for us to make it to Morikani and visit it for the first time. Can you just give us an update on how Bandeni is doing and how Morikani is doing?
Yeah, so Bodeni community in the slums used to be known as the worst, most dangerous area in Mathare Valley. And so after we started working there, kind of the gangs that used to be there have now changed. We have seen people's lives being transformed. As a matter of fact, we have a church plant there. Pastor Stephen Owino is our pastor there. And by the way, previously, he used to be also part of the gangs. And now he's a pastor. And then we have some of them have started looking at ways they can reach out to their friends who are also in gangs and rehabilitate them and have their lives changed. Our school there has more than 1,200 kids, and we have had some of the students graduate, go through the school and through high school, and they are now back working with us in Missions of Hope. Some of them are camp counselors, because we just started a discipleship camp for our 6th graders, and very exciting things are happening. Our 7-story building in Bodeni is going to be the first building in Mathare Valley to have an elevator, and that is exciting, and the kids are really looking forward to the elevator being installed. And then in Morikani, 5 years ago, when we learned of this community and God called us to this community, again, Eddie and the leadership here said, yes, we will go with you to that community. And we now have a pastor who is doing discipleship ministry there. And we have 420 kids that are attending our school in Morikani. And everybody in that community loves Missions of Hope. And they know we are a Christian organization, but they are happy that we are taking care of their children. And the community is so open to us. Initially, they had given us 6 acres of land, but they recently increased that to 50 acres of land so that we can do a primary school, a high school, and also a health center for both medical and dental services. And it is so exciting to see what God is doing.
Well, it's amazing. And the plans that you're making are so inspiring also. This is exactly what Jesus talked about in the parable we looked at today. Use worldly resources to make friends and to make an eternal impact. And that is what you're doing. It's what we are able to do because you're the folks whose hands and feet are involved directly in the work. It's amazing. So will you tell us, when we sponsor a child through Mohi, what happens?
When you sponsor a child, $38 a month, this is giving that child a lifetime opportunity for their destiny to be changed and to be shaped. And this gives an opportunity to the child to get to know about Jesus and eventually be able to make a decision to get baptized. And they also give us an entry point to their families so that we are able to minister to their families, evangelize to them, and connect them to a local church. And each child, when they come to our school, they are able to get 2 meals a day for every day they are in school. They get Christian teachers, they get school supplies, they get a school uniform, and this just means the world to them and to their family. Because again, when we work with the families, as we evangelize to them, we are able to identify other areas of need. We provide health, education, but also economic empowerment so that they can be able to earn a living in a better way and be able to take care of their families. And it is very empowering. And as we evangelize to them, then their hearts become even more open. And of course, these families are the ones that make up the communities. And that is how the transformation of the communities happen. And so when you sponsor one child, it doesn't just stop there, but it goes to the family and their community, and that is transformational work.
Well, that is an amazing opportunity for these children when you consider their circumstances. But are they seizing that opportunity? Are you seeing that all of the things that your team is investing in is making a difference as these children grow older?
Yes, so much difference, because most of these children come from families whose parents never had an opportunity to get an education. Their parents had no other alternative other than, the kind of things they do in the slums. But then when these children get an education, that is actually breaking the cycle of poverty in their families and over generations. And some of these children, they have gone through our program and they are now working. Some of them are working with us, and others have gotten jobs with other organizations and companies. And it is amazing to see the kind of transformation that is taking place. And some of them are now serving in our local churches as well as volunteers.
So the impact on these kids and their families and on the city, on their communities, and then we haven't even had an opportunity to talk about the churches that are being planted, the church leaders that are being trained and raised up. It's an amazing opportunity for us. Thank you so much. I could ask you questions all day, and I'd love for people to hear more, but I wanted everyone to get a taste of the incredible things that God is doing through Missions of Hope. Will you thank Mary for being with us today? Thank you, Mary.